Welcome to another episode of Fun Facts and Sad Truths. Today's fun fact is a man cannot step in the same river twice because that river is no longer the same river and that man is no longer the same man.
Sad truth. My uncle has used this guiding principle to inform his constant investigation over the last 12 years, where he traces the Chicago River for the corpse of his long lost daughter, to no avail because some things do remain the same. Continue recording. Hello,
Hello.
It's Fun Facts, Sad Truths. How you doing?
Doing good.
My name's Pepsi,
My name's Jake Hole.
and it is a fun day for facts.
Sunday fun day. That's what they call this Saturday.
Yep. So, those of you listening at home, Marvel Endgame Avengers Disney has come out, and you can all confirm that our review of everything was completely factual.
100% factual.
100%. But in the world, did you see that? You see that? We had the green turn for literally less than a second.
Wow.
That was got to be a glitch. So
Anyway.
in the continuing world of cinema, a new movie has finally come to light that will eclipse the excitement people are currently feeling for Marvel Endgame, and that movie is, of course, Sonic the Hedgehog.
Sonic. Now, everybody knows they released a trailer and everybody flipped their goddamn lid about this perfectly crafted movie.
I have not seen fans this excited about the product that they're receiving from like their brand that they like so much since probably the Resident Evil movies, maybe the Phantom Menace 3D re-release specifically. People were really thrilled about that. I think as a general rule, like people they see a thing coming out that they like recognize from like that they like it, and they're like really they're going to like a movie no matter what.
Yeah, I mean that's the whole point of making movies is to make things that you know people are gonna like based on nostalgia, not actually making a good movie. Who gives
Exactly.
a shit about a good movie?
When I go to a movie, I don't want to see anything that is new or different. I want to be able to just wait for something to come on the screen that I can point at and say, that is Spider-Man, that is Hulk, that is Jurassic Park, that is Ghostbusters.
I remember those from
I-
before.
I know
and now
that.
they're here now.
I know it, and I want to look at it because I know who that is.
Yeah.
I would like movies to get more specific. I would like to see movies with my dad in them because I know him.
Well, I hear they're actually making they're making like a specific kind of CG thing where it's someone wears, like if you ever saw, fuck, what was that movie about? Like that was kind of cartoony but real action. It was about drugs and the guy like wore a mask that changed his face.
Who Framed Roger Rabbit?
Yes, that one. It's gonna be like one of those, but whoever's watching it, it's gonna look like their dad. So it's and it's really gonna cause a lot of controversy because there's a lot of people who don't know who their dads are, so they're gonna be really confused when they see the movie and realize that it's just Kevin Bacon. Because Kevin Bacon is most people's dad.
He's like the
believe it
Genghis
or not,
Khan of
the
Kevin
21st
Bacon.
century. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, no. And And speaking of Kevin Bacon and the Sonic movie, I think so. Like we said, it was very well received. Everybody loved it, but they're still making changes even this late in the game.
Yeah.
And one of the things that they're deciding
So
to do is
some internet trolls are complaining about they're saying like, "Oh yeah, this Sonic the Hedgehog, I don't like what he looks like." And it's completely just a joke and ironic and sarcasm because everyone is really really happy about what he looks like.
yeah
So if you see anything saying otherwise, you just get in on the joke, you know.
yeah
Everyone loves the new Sonic. Go
yeah.
on.
Well, no, but they're even making changes this late in the game, and I think it's going to be a weird choice that they're actually going to just take the take one of the still models of Sully from Monsters Inc. and have him just be Sonic. And then he's going to be voiced by Kevin Bacon, but they're not going to animate him at all. It's just going to be one of the frames where he's got like his arm up and he's about to scare someone, you
Yeah.
know. And then, but like that's just going to be Sonic. And you know, it's a risky move, but you know, it's what's life without risks, just like that one. Um, so I'm excited about it.
I'm excited
I
about.
hope they do what they do with most Kevin Bacon movies, which is before, instead of buying popcorn or candy or whatever, the only thing available at the concession stand is bacon
Yeah.
that spells out the name Kevin.
And I hope they do the other thing with Kevin Bacon movies that makes them so interesting and successful, in my opinion, which have them be made in the 1980s.
Yes, that is also a great way to make a movie good, is to have it made in the 1980s.
So hopefully they do that.
Yeah.
But the other thing that I was excited about with this movie specifically, because you were talking about some daring choices. So if you've seen a movie anytime recently, you may already know about this. But like they know how to de-age people with like CGI. They know how to make people who were like in Rogue One, a Star Wars story. They included Peter Cushing as
Is that really the name of the movie?
Yes, Yeah, that wasn't a joke.
Holy shit! Okay,
I know,
I'm
you're-
sorry.
Jake Hole is sometimes moved to laughter by things that are just too creative and well thought out. So they included Peter Cushing as Grand Moff Tarkin, his character from the original Star Wars movies, even though Peter Cushing is dead. They achieved this is real. Not everything I say is real, but they achieved this by having a CGI version of him, and they used like audio clips from the original movie, and I think they probably included like some voice acting or something. But they had a CGI Peter Cushing playing Grand Moff Tarkin. Similarly, in some of the Marvel movies, they made like Kurt Russell look like he did when he was younger by de-aging him with CGI.
Yeah.
Michael Douglas and Robert Downey Jr. They did that.
And The Sopranos, they made that woman who died remain alive with CGI and
Mm-hmm.
old clips.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So this is generally an uncontroversially good thing that everyone agrees was a good idea always and looks great all the time. I'm shocked in the Sonic movie, you know, you're thinking like, how could that possibly be relevant? Who are they going to include? Here's the thing. Not all of our fans will know this because they're not like video game geniuses like you and myself.
Mm-hmm.
But Michael Jackson was originally working on music for one of the Sonic video games that didn't end up getting used. And
That's true.
that's a true statement, like everything else that I've said. And I think he ended up using it in Moonwalker instead, but there's some conspiracy theories about how much music in Sonic 3 is actually Michael Jackson. They were going to include a dead Michael Jackson in this movie as one of the main characters using CGI, but then obviously things came out about him committing tax fraud that made it more controversial to use him in the movie, I think. And
Well, yeah, because I mean that's the only controversy that they could dig up on this guy.
yeah, I don't think anyone's ever come out and claimed anything else substantial that I've
Um,
read about, other than I think
And he
Maybe
was a
I'm thinking of
priest for
somebody
a short
else.
time
I think he was
or
a
something.
Catholic priest or something.
Yeah,
Right?
something like that.
I never learned how to read, so everything I know about Michael Jackson is stuff that I just assumed from looking at a headline that I didn't actually know how to read.
Yeah, and then that gif of him moonwalking. That's about it.
Exactly. And those two things combined, staring at newspapers I can't read and watching him moonwalk, convinced me that he committed tax fraud.
Yeah.
But so he's not in the movie anymore. But they
Yeah.
needed to have someone there because they already had the entire film made. So they have replaced dead Michael Jackson with a different dead celebrity. And I gotta say, I'm really excited to see how this works out because it's David Carradine. And in the movie, it's not going to be like that David Carradine is just there and it's David Carradine. They've worked it into the plot that they bring David Carradine back from the dead. And the entire time he looks as he would have at the time of his death. Which is,
yeah, and in case and that's mostly for people who don't know who Dave Carradine is, maybe, but like the entire movie that he's the parts that he's in, he's got a belt wrapped around his neck. When they're going up to his grave, there's a belt on top of it. Yeah. Like there's just all these things to let you know, hey, this is Dave Carradine,
and he died peacefully in his sleep of a heart attack.
Yeah.
Or wait, no. It's something else. I think it was. I'm thinking of stroke, but I don't think it was a stroke. It had something to do with a stroke or stroking. I don't know, but yeah. So they're doing that. Unfortunately, they're still using the same voice acting of Michael Jackson the entire time because they hired the voice actor to do an impression of Michael Jackson, and that guy's like union, obviously. So he was like, I'm not gonna give up this part. So. And most of what he says is like him just saying like, I'm Michael Jackson. And they're like, please stop. You need to say, I'm David Carradine. Thanks for bringing me back from the dead. And he'd be like, all right, I got it this time. I'm not David Carradine. I'm Michael Jackson.
But just the one thing I hope is that I'm David Carradine. Thank you for bringing me back from the dead. I just hope that's not just the funniest line in the movie, because that was hysterical when watching that in the trailer.
Yeah.
And it's like, if the movie's 5% better than this line, I'm okay with that.
The whole movie's got to be good.
Yeah, exactly.
Surprisingly little Sonic himself.
Well,
they're treating it like Jaws, where it just like you see like the back of him like run by real quick.
Well,
and then there's like go on.
Well, so they're gonna do the thing, like Jaws, where you just see the back of him, or because he's so fast,
exactly,
he can't be seen with the naked eye. And like in movies or TV shows like The Flash or like Quicksilver and X-Men, like they did the whole like slow-mo, but then he's moving the same speed. Like they were thinking of doing that with Sonic, but then they decided to have everything normal speed, and then all of Sonic's parts are just extremely fast. So all of his scenes are about maybe 3 to 5 seconds.
Well, what's interesting to me is that they actually filmed the movie under the assumption they were going to do it the other way. So it was filmed where everyone was just talking really, really slowly, and Sonic was normal speed, but the movie was 18 hours long. So they sped it up so that it would only be 6 hours long. And as a result, people, they're all talking, but they sound really weird and high-pitched. So the Michael Jackson impersonator, like, it can only be heard by dogs because he was speaking so high-pitched because he was doing a Michael Jackson impression.
Oh, yeah. So I feel bad for all the blind people who go to see the movie and have their seeing eye dog flip the fuck out.
Your dog might need to get its own emotional support dog. That's a topical joke about the issue that people talk about all the time about emotional. Everyone complains about emotional support animals. I think most millennials should be put into gas chambers for being poor. I think they deserve to die for being poor and for having any progressive views on mental health. Because personally, I was born into a pretty privileged position, and as a result, I think other people should suffer like my parents didn't.
Well, but see, the thing is, if we didn't have mental health problems, we wouldn't have movies like Sonic.
Jesus Christ.
Uh, what? We wouldn't have movies like Sonic, and even more so, how else are the rich people going to convince poor people to kill themselves off?
Yeah.
Depression and suicide are the only thing that are letting the bourgeoisie slowly kill the proletariat without actually killing
Hey, you
themselves.
know what? I will gladly suffer my entire life and die either needlessly as a result of unsafe working conditions, needlessly as a result of the general health deterioration that comes from working yourself endlessly to suffering and misery, or eventually killing myself from the depression that comes from low wages and constant hours, so long as I get to have a movie that includes a thing that I know. If I see a movie and like I get to see a Transformer car, I had that toy when I was a kid. A kid in a sweatshop in China made me that toy and they died for that. And now I want to see a movie where way more kids died to make it. And I want to watch that movie and then I'm going to go home and I'm going to forget everything that happened. I'm going to drink precisely one beer and cry for a very long time.
Yeah, I couldn't have said it better myself. I don't think movies should be made if they're new concepts. Who gives a shit about new stuff? If I want something new, I'll like buy a toaster or something. That's new.
I,
I'm
I,
not gonna
I
buy a used toaster.
when they made Andrew Garfield become Spider-Man, I I I I peed in the movie theater because I got emotional and I was going like, Tobey Maguire is Spider-Man, and I started just like absolutely like screaming at people for like asking me to be quiet because I was like, that's not him, and I'm gonna piss all over you, and
Yeah.
so. But then once he put on the mask, I was like, that's Spider-Man, that's him. I'm okay now. I can watch this movie because I recognize that. And then they made the new guy Spider-Man, and the exact same thing happened to me. And I punched myself in the face a couple of times. And effectively, this is just like with Star Wars. When they made a new Star Wars movie, I was like, no, that's people I don't know. And then they had Harrison Jones Ford come up, came in and he said, "Yeehaw! I'm Indiana Jones," and I was like, okay. I know him. I know him, and then he got in the big ship that I know from the movie, and I was like, I know that. That's okay. I know that. And in the Marvel movies, when Iron Man was in the cave, the entire movie, I was screaming, "Where is he? Where is he? Where is he?" Until he came out in the suit, and I said, I know that. I have been writing a very long manifesto, and I am going to find the body of Stan Lee because I know him, and I know who he is.
Yeah. I mean, he was originally the only actor in any Marvel movie.
He did all of it.
All of it. He was Tobey Maguire. He can actually shapeshift. Nobody knew that.
That's where the idea for that X-Man character who does that, Wolverine.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. He shapeshifts his hands into claws. um.
But yeah, if the new Star Wars movie, we haven't talked about that. There's a new Star Wars movie coming out,
That's right.
and in a beautiful shift of events, they're going to now have Emperor Palpatine come back. And that's good in my opinion because what I like the most about the Star Wars movies is whenever they would ham fist in characters that I recognized into the prequels and it'd be like, there'd be like something going on and then it'd be like, oh, by the way, here's Jabba the Hutt. And I would just start shrieking in the movie theater and clapping my hands like a seal. And I would just like go like, and I would turn to the guy next to me, be like, he was in the other one. And they would just be furious with me. And in the new movie, I was really scared because obviously, spoiler alert for those of you at home, they killed Han Solo and they killed Luke Skywalker. And then Carrie Fisher actually died. So, like, all of the things I know are gone. And then in the trailer, it's like, hey, look, it's Billy D. Williams. And I'm like, oh, he played Lando. I know him. And Peter Mayhew just recently died, too, the guy who plays Chewbacca. You know, they're all dying. And I'm just like, listen, I need you to make a movie where people, I know them. So that thankfully they're going to have Emperor Palpatine probably because he laughed at it. And I want to be able to hear Emperor Palpatine laugh because I know that sound. He already did it before. I've heard that. Okay, so let's talk about exactly.
The most iconic laugh of
It's
all time.
amazing. Let's talk about our what we want in the new Star Wars movie.
Well, I mean, the only thing I want is Mark Hamill voicing every character as the Joker from Batman Beyond.
See, I like that because I know what that is.
Yeah, see? Yeah.
I hope that the new Star Wars movie is just that they just play Phantom Menace, but they add new stuff in the CGI into it, like a new robot in the front. Be like, I'm a robot, because the CGI has changed, and I want to see what it would look like if a movie from before was the same, but with stuff that you can do now. Like, I would like for them to go back to the old Jurassic Park and make the dinosaurs look like they do in the new Jurassic Park, so the whole movie looks like dog shit.
Yeah.
That's generally what technology is all about, is going and putting. I would like for them to add, like, go to the Mona Lisa and make it one of those things where, like, if I walk past it, it like it's a different face, because we can do that now. I would like for the Sistine Chapel, for it to be an iPhone instead, like with a touch screen, and I can click on it and open up my iTunes folder and play the new song from Beyonce. I want that because I know that.
It's my favorite song.
Yeah.
I want that because I know that. It's a really good Beyonce
It's a
song.
really good Beyonce song. It sounds exactly the same as every other song I've heard on the radio, because if I hear a song that wasn't written by the same two Swedish guys in a laboratory, I will throw things.
Yeah.
Everything needs to be the same.
More or less.
Yeah.
You mentioned dead children earlier, which brings us to our sponsor for today's episode. Kids Bop, but other stuff.
So here's a word from our sponsors. This week's episode of Fun Facts and Sad Truths is brought to you once again by Kids Bop, but for other things.
So, everybody loves Hamilton. Hamilton was a great play that came out relatively recently, about a bunch of white guys who wanted to rap, but they couldn't, so they got a bunch of black actors in the theater to be rappers.
It's like reverse 8 Mile.
Yeah, so it's like that. But so everybody loves that, but now we're throwing kids into the mix. So it's still kind of, original Kids Bop, but, they're having a full-on production. If you go and actually see it live, we'll have, if you go to the website, kidsbopforotherstuff.co.uk, you can find playtimes for, these different shows. And, it's really interesting to watch how these children, view this adult thing like Hamilton, and then play it out while also being terrified of being killed by the warlords controlling them.
And you got to appreciate just like the intellectual maturity of the original play Hamilton, which answered the age-old question of what if musical theater was like more insufferable. And like, to watch children do that in tears the entire night It
It
kind of
brought me to
combines.
tears.
It combines my two favorite thing, which is theater people and being
Abusing
on an
children.
airplane with a screaming child.
Yeah. Yeah, most of them can't get their lines out because they're crying so hard. So they have, like, so you see, like, like those big old hooks that come out and pull people off stage, but instead it's just like an AR-15 with a really long muzzle, and they're like poking it at their face, like, hey, keep going, and it really brings a whole new kind of perspective
Absolutely.
to the thing. So
It really
check
makes you
that out.
feel like you're Alexander
Mm.
Hamilton.
Yeah, exactly. That's their featured thing this week. So yeah, make sure to check that out and check out all their other stuff. Thank you guys for sponsoring us.
Yeah, and then
Yeah.
if you're not a big fan of theater and you want to watch a little movie at home instead, recommend Kids Bop, but for other stuff's production of Grizzly Man. Uh, it's exactly what you'd expect.
Yeah.
Yeah. Um, that's about it.
End of ad.
End of ad. And we're back.
We're back. Notre Dame.
Notre Dame.
Now that ad break was so that we could get our guest on today, get him into the building.
Yeah.
We're really happy to have him back. Actually, his second appearance on our show.
Yeah.
Mr. Reggie from Nintendo.
Welcome
Thank
to
you
the show,
for
Reggie
joining
from
us, Reggie.
Nintendo.
Hey, how's it going?
It's going well. How about you?
I am doing great. Now, Mr. Hole over here, he mentioned Notre Dame. Now, that's why I'm here today, because I want to clear some stuff up.
Yeah, you contacted us, which I was surprised by because,
Well, I'm not as busy as you might think I am.
I know you're working on that new console and stuff, and
Yeah.
I believe Jake Hole had mentioned that after
He's doing most of the work. I'm pretending to work next to him. I'm mostly playing solitaire though. He doesn't realize it. And even me saying this right now, he's not even paying attention. I don't know what the fuck he's doing.
What do you think about that, Jake?
What?
Yeah.
Yeah. Anyway, this fucking guy. So everybody knows you, Pepsi, because you are the beloved nephew of Uncle Tendo. Now, he has to do with this story. Now, man, yeah, of course. What the fuck else do you think I'm doing? The second I retired, I was walking out and I was like, who's with me? Uncle Tendo stood up and walked out with me. It was just like the end of that movie, The Monster in the Blue Lagoon or whatever. Favorite movie of all time.
It's a great movie.
Anyway, so I have a little confession to make. I may have a little bit to do with the fire started at Notre Dame. Now, me and Uncle Tendo were just trying to find new places to do peyote. We had pretty much gone anywhere. Anywhere you could think of, we did peyote and then went there. Sometimes by the time we got there, the peyote had worn off. Unfortunately enough.
Waste of peyote.
Never waste peyote. Taking peyote is never a waste.
Okay.
That's what my mama used to say. Yeah. She put me to bed at night and give me my peyote. She'd be like, have some crazy ass nightmares, you fucking strange child. Peyote's never a waste. Sorry, bringing up my mom just brings a tear to my eye. I get a little choked up.
I'm crying so loudly that it sounds like I'm laughing. It's beautiful. Go on.
Anyway, so we realized that we've done it. We've done many different drugs in the Church of Notre Dame, but we never did peyote there.
Okay.
So we went all the way. We got all the way there. Me and Uncle Tendo.
Mm-hmm.
We hitchhiked through the sky. Took a couple planes across the ocean. It was pretty difficult. But everybody knows Uncle Tendo can fly, so he didn't want to just fly all the way though. He just wanted to hover to wait for it was the whole thing. I really hate it when he starts to fly and then he doesn't want to fly anymore to the point where he doesn't even want to fly back down onto the ground.
No,
so
yeah,
we're
he'll
just
just
in
like
the air.
levitate with his
Yeah.
arms folded. Yeah, he's a
Yeah.
stubborn man in the sky when he's in the sky.
Yeah. I love him though. Without Uncle Tendo, there would be no Nintendo.
Oh yeah.
And he was the reason Nintendo's here today. Anyway, so we got all the way to where's that? I think it was Montreal or somewhere else. Probably the French Quarter of New Orleans, wherever that is that Notre Dame used to reside.
I think it was Minnesota.
Minnesota. That's right. Because we didn't have to fly that far.
Yeah.
I don't even know why we went over the ocean. And considering this show, fun fact, it takes a little more than 80 days to go around the world. I'm sorry. It took us a while to get there. Because we went all the way around. I live in Minnesota. That's where I went. This is where I went for my retirement. That's where most people go for retirement.
Yeah,
People make fun of people going to Florida. No, Minnesota's full of old farts like me. But anyway, so we got to Notre Dame and we realized we didn't even bring the fucking peyote. So Uncle Tendo just goes off. He's screaming at the top of his lungs. It just going crazy. And I didn't know what to do. I had no idea how to stop him. We were already in the thing. So I was like, yeah, fuck it. I just started a fire and it finally calmed him down a little bit.
As people, you may not know, if you're not familiar with Uncle Tendo, he's sort of like a reverse Frankenstein monster, where like fire is the only thing that will stop him from like he everything else terrifies him all the time.
Oh yeah. That's why that's why he had the only office in all of Nintendo Studios where he had a fireplace.
Mm-hmm.
And the thing is, he was on the bottom floor, so the smoke went directly into the person above him, and it really pissed him off. But he got a little nicer once Uncle Tendo started throwing the peyote into the fire. You know what I mean? Yeah, really drugging the guy above him without his knowledge. Like cool people do.
Yeah.
He got that idea from Joe Biden.
Yeah.
Yeah.
During Joe Biden's tenure at Nintendo, I forgot about that.
Yeah, Joe Biden is actually the creative muse that we had to make Sonic in the first place. Because Nintendo invented Sonic,
Yeah.
Everybody knows that.
Yeah, they would just hire Joe Biden to like stand in like the middle of a room posing in various ways.
But the thing is, he never stood still. He couldn't sit still, that man. And we were like, we gotta make a game about a hedgehog that moves fast. Because this guy can't stand the fuck still.
Yeah. They used to call him Jittery Joe.
Yeah. But anyway, so Notre Dame fire, it was really just that. I just started the fire to calm down Uncle Tendo. Really didn't think nothing of it. I mean, it's just a church. Who gives a fuck? I certainly don't. Reggie from Nintendo, don't give no fuck. You could quote me on that.
So you're the culprit behind the destruction of the Notre Dame Chapel.
According to my lawyers, no.
Okay.
But yes.
Yeah. I think it's worth noting, of course, the beautiful poetry sort of someone burning, this figure of ancient beauty, not ancient beauty, but historic beauty, some art and culture that existed before to pave the way for really the new beauty of art in the world, which is Nintendo Switch uh, uh, version that you can play Fortnite. That's really the modern day Notre Dame
Wait.
chapel.
You said the Nintendo Switch version of Fortnite. Are you telling me that Fortnite is on things that aren't Nintendo?
I mean, I think it might be on a GameCube, which is Nintendo. Is that okay?
What the fuck is a GameCube?
So it's like imagine a Rubik's cube, a little bit bigger, and you can put like a laser disc, but a really small laser disc inside of it, and then you get to pretend that you're Mario.
Can't make discs are made out of metal. You can't make a disc out of lasers. Those are concepts. They're not even real. Who are you? Where am I? Where's Uncle Tendo?
I think
I need to be within 10 feet of him at all times. That's my alarm that's telling me I'm too far from Uncle Tendo. Oh no. Where is he?
you're the last person who saw him alive.
Oh, that's what the screaming in the fire was. I get it now. I feel like such an adult.
Yeah,
I thought it was just the wood.
and
You know, sometimes they like
You know.
kind of like release air or whatever. It sounds like a human scream.
when you called me and you said you're like talking to me in your crazy voice and you're saying like, oh, the you'll never believe it,
That's a fantastic impression.
there's a screaming building over here. And I was just like,
And I also lost your Uncle Tendo.
well, I'll be honest, I assumed he was dead a long time ago.
Well, based on how you see drug addiction, he technically was. He's been dead for quite a long time until his actual death, wherein which his heart stopped. not the death of his morality or self-importance.
Well, he always wanted to be cremated.
He told me about that. I thought that then he wanted to be on fire too, but he explained it to me. He actually wanted to become a Krispy Kreme donut. That's what he thought cremated was. He wanted to be sprinkled on top of about a baker's dozen of Krispy Kreme donuts because that was his favorite type of dozen, was a baker's dozen. Because the baker down his street didn't know how to fucking count. So he gave him like 46. It was great. You eat the shit out those donuts.
Well, rest in peace.
Yeah, I mean, that was just a moment of silence for Uncle Tendo because we both realized that he is now gone from this world.
I don't really know what to do now that, we don't have Uncle Tendo. Really.
I mean, I think what he would want us to do is some ketamine.
You know what I think he'd want us to do? Is go watch Sonic the Hedgehog, the motion picture, in theaters.
I did not approve that movie. I'm saying this. I am Reggie from Nintendo, ex-CEO of Nintendo Enterprises. And I'm saying I did not approve the Sonic movie. It was my lawyers who approved it.
Okay.
Yeah.
Why did they do that?
Because they're a bunch of fucking assholes. I don't know. They're shitty lawyers.
I got you.
They made me think that I couldn't play Fortnite and be a Nintendo at the same time. They're the ones who convinced me of that.
Oh, yeah, so that's why you retired.
Yeah.
And they're trying to steal most of your money, I think.
Yeah, well, I got Actually have security camera footage of my lawyers breaking into my house. And by breaking in, I mean I'm opening the door for them after they ask me to come in and then also ask me for money. They take my money after I hand it to them and then they leave. And that is highway robbery. Right out of my own home.
Well, you do live off the side of the highway. You live under an underpass or an overpass. You live over an underpass and under an overpass. You're like a paradoxical, like hobgoblin. It's like like Harry Potter, where you have to like walk through the wall and wind up in like a train station bathroom or some shit. Like for you, it's that, but you have to drunkenly careen your car off of the road into a ditch out the side of the highway. Then you get stuck inside of a weird encampment.
Yep. That's 100% how I get home. If I do not have at least a blood alcohol content of 1.5%, I cannot get home in any legal capacity.
This is why you need your lawyers all the time.
Yeah.
They gotta,
Yeah.
yeah.
And then I got the rabbi followed me to keep my food kosher because J. Cole told me about that. It really made me feel good about what I'm eating.
Yeah, it's ethical that way.
Yeah.
Also note that all your lawyers are always wearing like a lot of medical gear and injecting you with things.
I'm not supposed to talk about that, but seeing as you guys don't have any fucking listeners, I'll tell you anyway. It's a super soldier serum. I'm going to be the real Iron Man.
Yeah.
My favorite DC superhero.
Famously,
DC obviously stands for D's Comics. Which rule? I love D's Comics. Jesus fucking Christ.
Yeah, no, that's great. And you were saying you wanted to become the new owner of DC Comics. Now that you're no longer the CEO of Nintendo, you wanted to try and become what you said was like the Stan Lee of DC.
Well, yeah, because they never fully explain how Superman could fly, and I really want to take over the whole operation so that I can make an entire series explaining the logistics of how Superman flies. Would you like to know how he flies?
I would love to.
All his pores are about 300 times the size of a normal human's, and he can just blow air out of them at an extreme rate. That's all it is.
So you said when we were talking on the phone earlier that your version of Superman would look sort of like, I think the phrase you used was a anthropomorphic SpongeBob.
That or like one of those frogs that has the little frogs living in its back.
Yeah.
Yeah, he looks like that, but like a human.
Yeah.
Yeah. And
that sounds amazing.
yeah, and we're gonna make sure to do I ever seen Sports Science or whatever that stupid ass TV show is. We're gonna do the zoom into his bones and see all the different sacs that hold the air that he blows it out of. It's
So he's got bone sacks.
fuck.
What?
No, he's got bones and sacs. He doesn't have bone sacs. I mean, well, so he does have a sack of bones in which he keeps all the bones from the people that he's murdered in cold blood because he is a heartless alien fuck.
Yeah, I know. My favorite part of the Superman comics is always just like how there'll be people just going about their day, and all of a sudden Superman will come riddled with holes, looking like a fucking piece of Swiss cheese. And he'll just let out this hellish shriek and just suck the skin and muscles and everything off of them from like 30 feet away while they try and run away and leave just a pile of bloody bones.
He also sometimes licks up the blood. He could vacuum it up, but he finds it more ritualistic to lick it.
Yeah, he likes licking them.
Yeah.
And his tongue, obviously, you said you were going to change this so that his tongues were more anatomically correct in terms of like what an actual extraterrestrial would be like, and that it would
Well,
come from his nipples.
yes. Because the fire breath and the laser eyes doesn't make any fucking sense. Laser nipples and fire nipples. That's where it's at.
Yeah.
He's got it, and yeah, obviously his new suit is like the opposite of Pasties. It's like a full body suit without the nipples. Because you don't want to just burn through the suit over and over again. You might as well just make the holes there, right?
Exactly. Yeah. And you said, you're going to keep it truer to the comics, and you showed me it's like a leather bodysuit with like no holes for like breathing or anything except the nipples and just like millions of little zippers.
That was for my other movie.
Oh, I forgot. What was that movie?
It's a sequel to Brokeback Mountain.
They said it was going to be a sequel to Air Bud.
Well, Air Bud is the spiritual predecessor of Brokeback Mountain. So I guess technically it will be a sequel to Air Bud.
Okay.
But it's going to be more like, look at all that guy blowing air, bud. And then everybody's going to look at the camera and be like, you get it?
I was expecting it to be more like, like whether or not a gay cowboy can play basketball. And the answer is, of course, yes.
Yes.
Yeah.
Who do you think Michael Jordan was?
He was
the best gay cowboy to play basketball in a movie about a baseball player.
Yeah, I was going to say, like, I don't think he ever actually played basketball.
Once or twice. Maybe against Larry Bird. Birds
can play basketball?
Yeah. That's how they got the idea for Air Bud.
Dogs I'll accept, but birds have like 18 feet.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What?
They've got like 18 little feet, like human feet, but tiny ones all over their body. That's how they fly, is they just jump really, really, really like tall because they got so many like little toes. They got like a spring action going on.
I was wondering where all my peyote went, and I think I figured it out. What the fuck are you talking about? I've never seen a real bird in my life.
Oh?
No.
No, you've never seen a bird?
Birds do not exist. That's why they are in video games.
Birds are in video games now?
Yeah.
Is that legal?
I mean, Nintendo Incorporated doesn't deal with legality or non-legality issues.
That's why Mario was able to go down the pipes and stuff.
Yeah.
In the real world, you would get sued into oblivion if you went.
Oh yeah. I mean that's why they made the game. That's why the Japanese were like, we are going to get back at the people who gave me the ticket for jumping in their toilet.
The Japanese who famously sound exactly like French people.
Well, that's just, because some people, when they do an impression of someone doing an impression, it gets really fucked up. It's somewhere along the line there.
I don't know why you would mention that.
I don't know either. All right, well, I think this is the end of my part. Bye.
Bye.
Man, I love it. I love his short and sweet. It's a lot better than the fucking Elon Musk interview we had last week.
Yeah.
Well, the dude wouldn't shut the fuck up.
Yeah, but that does remind me. We do have another guy who wanted to pop in and say hello, actually, and he's pretty quick and to the point, in my opinion. But come on in. I know you wanted to meet Reggie, but he got shy. He's afraid.
Hello? I've always been a fan of Reggie from Nintendo on account of...
Is that fucking Al Gore?
Oh my.
My goodness. It is such an honor to meet you in person. I've only ever seen my framed photograph of the other guy who did Nintendo, who was Japanese, I do believe,
Yeah,
and
Uncle Tendo.
signed by you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I signed it Uncle Tendo, if I remember correctly.
You did, and then you mailed it to me via electronic mail, which is what you call an email, depending on what part of the country you're in. It's what you can use online on the internet to try and send mail, because there is not yet
Nice,
an
nice
internet
try. Nice
post
try, buddy.
office.
The only thing that the internet is good for is playing Fortnite.
Fortnite refers to a duration of time. I'm not familiar with how you can play
No,
that
it's
unless you mean flipping through all of the dates on a day-to-day tearaway calendar, which I will admit I sometimes do to lighten the mood at parties.
that's how we first met. I was like, who the fuck is that psycho talking about global warming and ripping off the date? He's changing time as we know it. It was supposed
And
to be July 2nd. By the end of the party, it was March 54th.
and you met me, so to speak. But this is my first time meeting you because at that party, someone said to me while I was flipping through my calendar and said, Al, which is what my friends call me, Reggie from Nintendo, the gentleman you said you wanted to meet, is right over there, and pointed, and in the duration of time it took me to turn and look in your
I
direction,
waited.
you
I
left.
waited for a solid 3 hours. And you couldn't even see me in your periphery. And I was like, all right, this guy's not worth the time. I could walk in front of him, but I got better things to do. I
Well,
already stood here for 3 hours.
according to my calendar, you actually took a little bit longer than 3 hours. You stood there from January to October. That's just a little joke I do at parties. People will say, hey, it sure is taking a while for those hors d'oeuvres to come out of your kitchen, Al, which is what my friends call me. And I'll say, you think that's a long time? And I'll flip through the calendar. And when I say flip, I do mean just one page at a time. I don't like to go and flip through too many because people might lose track of what day it's on. Be like, can you go back a little bit of a ways? So I go and I flip and I say January 2nd, January 3rd, January 4th, so on and so forth until a later date. And at that point, I will say, why, it took just about 4.5 months for that food to come out of the kitchen. And they'll say, that's a good one, Al, which is what my friends call me.
And then I made the joke that time sure flies when you're having fun. And nobody got it. Because nobody was having fun because it was one of your parties.
I'm a bit confused. Are you referring to time like on a clock or the spice? Because you could hypothetically, if you're feeling a little inappropriate, make a naughty joke, the kind of joke I typically tell at my parties when things get a little bit later in the evening, and you could take a couple of leaves of time, hold them in front of a fan, and let go so the fan causes them to flitter away and say, gee, that time just moved through the air. And people will say, no, yeah, well, not on its own. The fan did it. But in retrospect, you could say that the time was flying. If you're referring to the progression of our perception of the events around us linearly forward through what we refer to as time, as spelled Time, like that on a clock, I don't quite comprehend how it could physically fly like a bird or something like a bird as seen in video games, because it's an abstract concept. It cannot literally fly because it doesn't have wings like Superman.
Or Uncle Tendo.
Now, if time were to have, hypothetically, a bunch of little holes in it and bone sacks,
They're not bone sex. He has bones and sex. Get it right.
my good friend Bill, you might have known him as William. He was president for a while, and his last name was Clinton. He used to play the sax too, but not in terms of a bag, but a shortened version of the phrase saxophone.
Well, that's what I meant by his sex in his body. It's small instruments that make him fly.
I've never seen a saxophone fly, but it certainly does have a number of holes in it, so I can see how that might work. I'm not personally a big fan of when Bill, which is what I called William, playing the saxophone, because he would often move his fingers in a way that was quick and made noises that were loud. Personally, I prefer music that doesn't include much noise and instead is similar to the sound of wind, but if the wind was just quiet.
Did they use your DNA to make Xanax?
I don't believe that I have DNA.
Oh,
I'll have to ask my doctor. I feel as though he would have brought it to my attention. I also do not believe in Xanax, because I've never heard of that before, but have to assume, based on the name, that it's something to do with the internet, like a Xerox. Xerox is, of course, something that I'm not fully familiar with, but I heard someone mention at one of my wild parties, and I've used it as a conversation starter ever since. In fact, I met my former wife in such a way. I went up to her at a bar and I said, do you know about Xerox? And she said, aren't you Al Gore? And I said, please answer the question. Sorry, I just cracked up a little bit with the nostalgia of that memory. So heartwarming to me, even though my wife has since left me. Not because of any issues in our marriage or loss of love, but that we were going somewhere together on foot. She walked a bit more quickly than I'm capable of. I don't know where she ended up. Her name used to be Tipper. I always would tell her, that's not a real name.
What? uh, uh, um, I, I don't. I think that's enough for you too.
Well, I respect your opinion on this matter, but I think it would only be right if myself and my good friend Reggie from Nintendo closed out this episode with our own words of wisdom. Reggie from Nintendo, would you agree with me on that?
Yes.
Why don't you begin? This is paused on here. Yeah.
Oh, I need to like breathe a little bit doing the Reggie voice. Like, oh, all right. Jesus. Fuck. What should his words of wisdom be? Uh. hmm.
That was recording the back there.
That long swath of silence, probably. I got good words of wisdom for you. If you're going to become CEO of a company, you do not need to change your last name to be of that company, because it's really hard to change your name after you've done it the first time.
And you're speaking from a very specific experience, because as we noted last time we had you on, you came out of the womb with a sign that said your name was Reggie from Nintendo, and you legally changed your name to Reggie Chevrolet when you applied for a job at Chevrolet Auto.
Yeah.
And then you had to change it back when you eventually did become the CEO of Nintendo again.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, Al, my words of wisdom would probably have to be, if you're ever sitting outside having a little picnic with your family, friends, or anyone else, and you see some pesky little ants showing up uninvited, you may feel obliged to pick up your food and go elsewhere, but I would recommend inviting them to your picnic and see if they can't teach you a thing or two about hospitality, teamwork, and maybe even friendship. Sorry, I cracked up remembering my wife who left me again. She always loved ants so much.
All right. Thank you for listening. I was your host, Reggie from Nintendo.
I was your host, Al Gore, but you can call me Al.
Wait, guys, you aren't the host. Wait, what? What? Don't.